So verse 27, just then his disciples came back, and they marveled that he was talking with a woman, but no one said, "What do you seek? And why are you talking with her?" So the woman left her water jar and went away into town and said to the people, "Come see a man who told me all that I ever did. Can this be the Christ?" They went out of the town and were coming to him. Keep that in the back of your mind, because I want to share some observations about the Samaritan woman that I don't think have been properly handled. And we talked about this a few weeks back, that the Christian tradition of how we look at the Samaritan woman is one view, but not necessarily the only view, or maybe even the accurate view. Because Scripture doesn't give us a lot of detail about this woman, only that she's a woman and she's Samaritan. And she was at the well at 12 noon. That's all we know. At that point, she had 5 husbands, and she's living with a man. Lots of conjecture around that. But I want to point out some things. The first is, she was truthful. Cautious, but truthful. Jesus called her out on her situation, and she just said, "I have no husband." And then when he laid out the whole picture, she said, "I perceive you're a prophet." She didn't argue. She didn't try to explain the situation accepted that. So she was truthful. She was knowledgeable about her faith. She said, "Our fathers here worship at this mountain." So we know from a few weeks ago that the Samaritans worshipped at Mount Gerizim. When she said this mountain, it was because that well was right at the foot of the mountain. And she knew that. She knew the difference between how the Samaritans worship and how the Jews worship. She says, "We worship on Mount Gerizim, but you say you have to worship in Jerusalem." So she was knowledgeable of her faith. She knew the Messiah was coming. She said the Messiah is going to come. Not only did she know the Messiah was coming, but she knew that he would be omniscient. He would know all things. He would tell us all things. She was not a promiscuous outcast in the village. She wasn't. Because, asked you to remember, she went into the village. She said, "I think I found somebody who might be the Christ." And they followed her. If she was this promiscuous outcast, why would they listen to her? It doesn't make any sense. And some Bible teachers will look at the fact that she has 5 husbands and point to that as proof that she was promiscuous and just going all about. But that's not really the issue in here. As Jesus points out, it was the fact that the man she's currently living with was not her husband. That's the point. But Bible teachers make a big point of the 5 husbands. I don't think that's where the emphasis should be. So why mention the 5 husbands? It was the truth. That was the truth of her situation. When you think about a woman who has had 5 husbands, if any of us have experienced or witnessed someone who has lost a spouse or got divorced, just one of those instances is filled with heartbreak, heartache, and heartburn. In those times, there was not a lot of medical care. You got sick, most likely you died. You broke a leg, there was no casts, you wrapped it up and you spit on it, and that was about it. There was a lot of wars as well. Men died in battle. And then, of course, there were writs of divorce that were written. So to assume that this woman had 5 husbands and they all divorced her, which is some of the implication that is laid around that, is not accurate. Some of those husbands could have died of an illness. They could have died in battle. Think about the heartache, heartbreak, and heartburn of just one incident of losing a spouse. Just one. And that is often devastating. Multiply that by 5. I can't imagine that. So why is that noteworthy? Well, think about this. After experiencing the heartache, heartbreak, and heartburn of losing 5 husbands, she still was on the lookout for the Messiah. She still knew the Messiah was coming. And she was waiting. She didn't curse God. If I want to speculate, I could think, well, she's living with this guy because she's losing hope. Hasn't lost it completely because she's still looking for the Messiah. But she's like, I can't do this again. I can't. That's a possibility. In the midst of all that, instead of being this brashly rebellious woman who's just throwing caution to the wind and just doing whatever she wants, maybe she is just someone who is living life and has been worn down by the fallen world, by her own sin, and is at a point of no return, the point of helplessness. And what happens? Jesus shows up. That's how I saw that. That may not be the actual picture, but it is consistent with Scripture. And I think it gives us a different heart about this woman. I'm left like, if that's true, she got a bum rap all these centuries of Bible teachers painting this picture of her that doesn't line up. Sometimes people in sinful situations feel helpless and hopeless to change their circumstances. And they're right, because some circumstances can only be overcome by the power of Christ. And she was there, and Jesus showed up just at the right time.